Hey everyone, and welcome to Redefining Your Retargeting Strategies. My name is Victoria Cohen, and I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at SIBA in Boston. Before we get started, let's cover a few housekeeping items. If you're tweeting with us, tweet using the handle @SIBA_HQ and the hashtag Redefining Retargeting. We will have time for your questions at the end of the webinar, so please submit your questions in the chat box available on your screen. And we will be recording this webinar and make it available to you for later playback and sharing. So if you miss anything, fear not. So let me introduce our speakers. First up, we have Nicolette Deneen, Director of Media Strategy. Nicolette is an industry expert in leveraging the power of digital advertising and social media to increase brand awareness and ROI. She works to strategize, implement, and analyze digital media across campaigns, across verticals, including CPG, higher ed, and e-commerce. She's worked in the media industry for over 6 years, and she is the Executive Vice President of the IABC Phoenix Board of Directors. Thanks for joining us today, Nicolette.
Thanks for having me, Vicki.
Next up, we have Tom Reinstadler, SIBA Account Strategist. He is an expert in digital user behavior and lead gen and serves as a cross-vertical specialist, strategist, and driver of customer success. He is a Google Premier Partner, Microsoft Advertising Partner, and a former AMA member. Good to have you here, Tom.
Hey, excited to be back, Vicki.
So we thought we would keep things light today and start off by checking in with everyone. It's been, as everyone knows, an interesting couple of months. So we figured we would just reach out to see how you guys are doing. Different parts of the country are beginning to, resume operations as usual. So let us know. Okay, give it another second. And here are our results. So it looks like things are getting better, which is promising. And we hope that with the information that we provide you today, things will only go up from here. So thanks for tuning in and sharing. And now we'll go through our agenda. So we'll start off with a straight up definition of retargeting, what it is and what it isn't, and really go through the benefits and features of retargeting, why you should use it, give you the whole overview from soup to nuts to get you where you need to be. Then our experts will run through their out-of-the-box retargeting tactics, which will refresh any stale retargeting strategy and give you some pretty good ideas. And then we will wrap up with some key takeaways and we'll take some questions from you guys. So without further ado, retargeting.
Yeah, so let's definitely go back to the basics and really define what retargeting is. Retargeting is the process of re-engaging your customers and really encouraging them to complete some sort of objective or conversion. And this engagement process can take various forms across various channels, which we're actually going to get into further on in the presentation. But we really want to make sure that we're aligning all of those goals around the way that we're targeting and making sure that it's a seamless tactic. Tom, do you want to talk about some of the example conversions?
Yeah, the conversions can range from the bottom line ROI driving conversions like purchases and lead generations, but these conversions can also be a little bit higher up the funnel. They can be event registrations, downloads, app installs. It really just comes down to what's made up of your marketing mix and how you evaluate your funnel. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at 2 different ways that we can look at your sales funnel and how we're driving people down it. So to start, we're going to go on the left. This is your more traditional linear sales funnel from a digital perspective. Really what we're focusing in on is just bringing people down towards that key bottom line action that we kind of talked about on the last slide. And retargeting is really going to be the driver of the actions that are going down there. But what we're also going to expand on as we get into some of our more out of the box tactics is actually over on the right, which is a more holistic view at your actual customer life cycle and how it interacts with your brand. It works very similarly to the sales funnel, but it's a little less linear. And what we're going to really focus in on is how you maintain brand loyalty and expand the touch points that you're having with your customers throughout their life cycle, and focus in on ways that you can really bring that value up over the course of their lifetime.
Yeah, and this can look like a lot of different things. So let's take a look at what retargeting looks like. So what we're going to focus on for the rest of this webinar is really display retargeting, whether that be display or video ads that we're showing across the internet. But really it takes multiple forms, such as remarketing emails. And this can be like your standard drip campaigns or even those abandonment campaigns that Cyba specializes in. And then one of the other most important tactics is paid social. So whether that be Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, you really want to make sure you're reaching that user who's already shown intent to complete whatever that action is, wherever they may be. So here you can see the various examples here, email on the far left and then paid social on the right.
Yeah, and we really want to focus in on also why you should use these different retargeting tactics across your channels.
Yeah, but really fast, I want to do another poll and I want to see how many of you are currently using these tactics. So Vicky, let's launch the poll. Perfect. And let's take a look at some of those results. Awesome. So it looks like many of you are using a combination, which is definitely what we recommend. And then a few of you aren't using anything. So let's get into some why we need to remarket or retarget.
Yeah, so when we're actually looking at the data, what we see is that, having remarketing efforts can almost increase your conversion rate as much as 50%, and it really brings up the amount of users that are going to actually be purchasing digitally from you. And when we talk to brands and agencies also in the industry, you get an overwhelming majority that believe that this is a tactic that should be used. As much as 60% of agencies and 50% of brands have this as a key part of their marketing mix.
And then let's also look at the stats about how consumers feel about retargeting ads. I know many of them think it might be creepy that we're following them around the web, but not as many as you would think. So 30% of consumers have a very positive outlook on retargeting ads, whereas 11% feel negatively. So that means almost 90% of people are fine with being retargeted. And so we definitely suggest adding this to your mix.
Yeah, and the benefits of this addition to your mix is really kind of things we've already touched on. It's re-engagement and conversion intent driving. You're remaining top of mind with these users, and as we're going to continue to delve into, it's that loyalty and lifetime value that you're going to continue to increase over time.
Perfect. And then Tom, want to talk about what the most common retargeting tactic is? I feel like this is probably where most of you are getting your audience from and one of the most important pieces of it.
Yeah, so standard retargeting is pretty much based off of an individual brand's website. So this is your standard, someone visits your website, they abandon, and what you do is you use first-party cookies to follow them across the web to then hopefully spur an action to bring them back. This is something that you should absolutely be doing. It's a staple of most brands' marketing mixes, and it can be done across channels. It's something that we do here at Cyba, and it's one of our core competencies. But what we want to focus in on is what goes on outside of this standard retargeting package, because there's additional segmentation options and an ever-growing amount of touch points that you can use within your mix to continue to expand these efforts. So we're going to jump into those.
Without further ado, what you've all come here for, the out-of-the-box retargeting tactics.
Yeah, so we're actually going to get started with post-purchase segmentation. So this is super popular in brands who sell products that have a shorter lifetime with the actual consumer. So we're talking about products that are going to be active for anywhere from like 15 to 60 days. We call these renewable goods. So you want to think vitamins, supplements, makeup. You got anything else, Nicolette?
I mean, I think a great one's dog food. I know that that's something that I constantly am ordering in my house.
How many dogs do you have again, Nicolette?
Let's not talk about it, Tom. It's too many.
Okay. But basically what we're doing here is you have your standard segmentation that you have on site where you're segmenting users by where they abandoned on the site or how long ago they abandoned. But we're going to like push past that. So you typically have a blacklist segment for people who have already converted. But what you want to do is you want to take the lifetime of that blacklist segment, which should be about how long your average order lasts with a consumer, and then tag a segment behind that where you're actually now targeting users. So like say you have a dog food package that's like 50 pounds, supposed to last roughly 30 days. Well, what you're going to do is you're going to create a segment that activates 30 days out and will start producing ads right at that 30-day mark, whether that user came back to your site in that span of time or not. So this is really meant to spur the action before the user has even started to take action on their own. It's a really proactive way to start your customer re-engagement process. So this doesn't always have to be sales driven. If you look at this example on the left here, Dyson just reminding you to do some upkeep with your new product. And then on the right, you have a little bit more aggressive approach. So this is Sephora that's selling, Nicola, you want to help me out with this?
Definitely. So it looks like that is a foundation, Tom, which I am not currently utilizing in quarantine. So, but yeah, I think that's a great example. But I think it's time that we get into our next tactic, which is actually one of my favorites. So retargeting from emails. And this is not to be confused with email retargeting. This is completely different. So this is where we actually embed pixels within your email content, whether that be the drip campaigns like we talked about or abandonment emails. And we're really able to capture that user, whether they're just viewing the email or whether they click through. A really great example of this would be Gap, who serves some sort of promo code in one of their emails. And then they want their messaging to be consistent across their display retargeting as well. So that user is really seeing that that promo in multiple places, and it's really moving them through that funnel or that loop that we talked about at the beginning. And here's the example of the Gap ad. So you see the email on the left side, and actually Vicky, our host, these are all her examples. Obviously, she's been doing some quarantine shopping lately. And then you can see the retargeting ad on the right.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good deal. And this cross-channel top-of-mind focus is really how you can increase that ROI across your campaign when you're firing on these multiple channels. So as we kind of press on to the next topic, we really want to focus now on a tactic we refer to as audience matching. So we actually just had a question come in about this. So this is really for individuals who want to be proactive in brand loyalty if they don't have a renewable product. This is really focusing in on a longer landscape of user purchasing cycles. So some really good examples are if you are in the hospitality or travel industry, consumer electronics are also a really good place. And then anyone who works with products that tend to like upgrade on either like a yearly or like every other year basis, and you have a nice CRM, because what you're really going to base this off of is the individual users for one-to-one retargeting outside of a short time frame. So let's take
Tom, really fast. I just want to touch on too, like the lead generation portion of this, as we see this as another tactic used frequently with some of our higher education clients, where someone starts going through an application process and we take that CRM data maybe a year or two later because they didn't complete the application, and then we're actually able to use that. So there are, there are plays for lead generation here as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that we can do with this data activation process. So for starters, you would want to take a list of information, whether it's the example that Nicolette just kind of started to touch on, or say you're in hospitality and travel and you have people who had booked trips last year, but they haven't re-engaged with your brand since. You want to build out that list. What we do is we actually cycle that through a data anonymization process. And then we're actually fed back different pieces of information like the user's mobile IDs, device IDs, social profiles, and we can retarget to them one-to-one to be able to either spur them to create that trip that they did last year, to finish the application they might have dropped off of, or to upgrade the specific product that is new to the brand. This can be for sales, this can be for informational purposes, but this is how you be really efficient with how you update your current customers and drive them towards new opportunities that your business is working really, really hard to generate. We can also use phone numbers and actual physical addresses as pieces of PII to create these lists.
Yep, and I would love to touch on the physical addresses. So let's talk about geofencing. This is one that isn't thought of very much, but it is a great tactic if you have a brick and mortar location. So I want to use QSRs during this time as an example. So what this looks like is we are able to place fences around a QSR or quick service restaurant such as McDonald's. And we're able to actually track the foot traffic on mobile devices that is going there. So say someone goes to McDonald's today, but McDonald's has a need to drive the users back or the consumers back next week. We're actually able to capture those IDs and serve display ads with whatever McDonald's promo is next week to drive them back into the store to purchase some sort of order online or maybe just through drive-through. So let's look at this example on the next slide to break it down a little bit further. So the way we do this is we actually, and here's a Burger King example, but we actually place the fence around the location. Once we capture those mobile IDs, we're able to serve them ads. And this ad in particular is showing them to order on the app right now. And so then that conversion point is really getting them to place that order and then head back into the restaurant. So this is just another way to really create that loop of creating loyal customers. And that really rounds out all of our tactics.
Yeah, thanks for running us through those 4 out-of-the-box tactics. We'll do just a wrap up quickly before we get to your questions. So as Tom and Nicolette so clearly explained, retargeting is not just a bottom of the sales funnel tactic. It can be used further at the top through different channels. And if you're executing your campaigns properly and thoughtfully, customers will respond positively to them and will actually appreciate the way that you're enabling them to sort of simplify their shopping efforts. We started off with mentioning retargeting based on website visits, which is sort of the old guard, but that is not to say that it's not effective. It is still highly, highly effective. And these other tactics are great ways to supplement retargeting so that it's more holistic and is really meeting the customer where they are. And just a recap of those tactics that we mentioned, there's post-purchase segmentation, pixel use in emails, audience matching, and geofencing, which will really build out customer loyalty and increase your customer lifetime value. So I know there was a lot of talk during this presentation, so we'll start with some questions. The first one up, how narrow of an audience can you target?
Yeah, I'll take this one, Vicki. This is a great question. So looking at audience size is very important with retargeting. There's certain factors that play into whether you have a larger audience or a smaller audience. Typically what we see, if the audience is smaller, the cost is usually greater because you're trying to find that user, and you might have to pay a little bit more to beat out your competitors. And typically with those smaller audiences, that's when we're looking at that loop that Tom talked about. Usually it's based on the CRM data or when you start segmenting out, whereas your run of site audience is probably your larger one. So really there is no straight answer on how big an audience can be. It just depends on what your ultimate goal is, and then we'll help you match that audience to that goal.
Great. Next up, do you guys offer dynamic product retargeting based on the last products users looked at?
Oh, I'll take this one as well. Sorry, Tom, you snooze, you lose. But yes, we do offer dynamic ads, and that is something that you can reach out to us about for more information, but we are able to segment based on last product or even recommend products in those retargeting ads.
All right, let's see if we can get one in here for Tom. Okay, new brand here. What's a good way to start off with retargeting?
Yeah, so I can take this one. When it comes down to getting your brand started, you want to take two approaches. And one is being super efficient, or they're both related to being super efficient. So one, focus in on the really low funnel. So segment for all of those users who have shown express interest in either product pages or abandoning from the cart and checkout pages. And then also, you want to also leverage any data that you have, especially first-party data from that CRM. Those CRM match lists are really where you kind of get started and see what value you can drive out of the people who are already aware of your brand and just need to be spurred into a new action.
Great. And I think we have time for one more. This one just came in. I'm at a small private college. Can you please give me some ideas specific to higher ed?
Yeah, so this is a great question. We work with a lot of colleges of all sizes, small niche ones or larger ones. And really the tactics are very similar, just depending on what data you can provide us. A lot of so we do the typical, website retargeting for a lot of our colleges. That's like the bare minimum. And then from there, we do a lot with CRM lists. So we do a lot of re-engagement campaigns where if you have leads that went cold, we re-engage them, encouraging them to come back. Or if you have leads that started the application process, we'll take that list and we'll encourage them to finish the application. And the way we really segment those out is through the data that you're able to provide or pixels that we're able to place on the site to track that user journey. And then we need to get really creative with the call to actions that we're encouraging the user to follow through with. And then we from there look at where we're sending that traffic. So whether it be back to the application or maybe they need to be in a higher part of the funnel where they're looking at more information. But this is something that we're definitely able to help you build some sort of media plan or strategy around.
Great. Well, it looks like that's all the time we have for today. Nicolette and Tom, thank you so much for these great insights. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. Please continue the conversation with us on Twitter or email us at marketing@cyva.com to get more information about our retargeting and to connect with our experts who do have these very specific, experts have these expertises. And thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.